All right, hello, it's Stephen Sadleir with Money and Power, The Secret History, and we've gone into intelligence, we've gone into looking at how there are different levels of government, and there are different families that have had control over commerce, trade, and politics, and banking for many generations. And one of the families that we all need to know about, I think more about, is the Bush family, who I have a great deal of respect for, by the way. I appreciate their service to our country and the good things that their family have contributed, and I have no doubt they had good intentions. So if I question their motives, or it's only because I think knowledge is power and people should be informed. It makes for a better government and a better country. And I went to school with Jeb Bush's son, Joe Bill. I think they're all good people from what I can tell. But I'm going to go back now 4 generations from our last president. There's Samuel Bush, Prescott Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, and George W. Bush. So if we go back 4 generations in the House of Bush, Samuel Bush is perhaps one of the most important names. He was a partner with Frank Rockefeller. So the Bushes have been intertwined with Rockefellers for 4 generations. That's the first point I want to make. They were in the Buckeye Steel Company. They were making shells for Remington and different kinds of steel. This was during the Industrial Revolution, of course, and World War I, and just prior to it, the building of ships, railroads, and oil. These are the areas that they were primarily invested in banking. Matter of fact, Samuel Bush became head of the War Services Board, so he got to help allocate where the money went for building our war machine in World War I. So he became a very, very important person, working closely with Warburgs and the Morgans, and obviously the Rockefellers. One of his biggest partners, matter of fact, was Averell Harriman, who is a very important person for everyone to know. And this is a little backstory. Harriman was ambassador to both the United Kingdom and Russia during World War II. He had the largest merchant bank, or one of the largest merchant banks in the world, using European money. Now again, that's very important that royal money is serving as a conduit through Harriman. He's one of the founders and directors of the Union Pacific Railroad, Southern Pacific Railroad, and the Wells Fargo Bank. He was one of the founding members of the Federal Reserve. I think it was out of Cleveland. And so when the Federal Reserve got started, Samuel Bush was one of the founders. Harriman, Bush, and a man named Walker, we're going to talk about shortly, all were part of a company called Harriman 15 Corporation, which had a majority of Sicilian holdings, which had 1/3 of the coal and zinc mining in Germany. Through the Thyssen family that they became partners with, 50% of the steel production in Germany was owned by this consortium that included names like Flick, and like I said, Thyssen, and Bush, and Walker, and Harriman. So these names you're going to hear again and again and again. Later, Harriman merged with the Brown Brothers. So we have Brown Brothers Harriman. Now the Brown Brothers are one of the largest merchant banks in Great Britain and the world. They manage royal money again. So we see in Central Intelligence these relationships between these 2 big banks, the Brown Brothers Harriman, and later, like I said in an earlier lecture, the Schroeder Bank, where Allen Dulles had been a director. And both of those banks have ties to Great Britain. So Americans don't realize how much influence the United Kingdom and royalty from Europe have in our intelligence, in our banking, in our government. The Queen of England joined with the Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands to form the Royal Dutch Shell Oil Company, which they're managing many of those funds. In 1942, the Union Banking Company joined. Prescott Bush was the director of it. So we see, before we get to either of our presidents or even their father, the Bush family was a very big name, tied into the biggest names in the United States, like the Rockefellers, as well as English money and the 2 biggest merchant banks in the world that that worked with royal money, Rothschild's money, the banking syndicate of Europe. So the leaders of our government are intimately tied in with the biggest movers and shakers of money in Europe. And that's really the point I want to start with in this discussion of the Bush dynasty.